Hi guys, and welcome to day 5 of weight loss skills training. Today we're going to be talking about cravings, and we're going to follow up and do a little bit more work on that tomorrow as well. This is a big topic because this is one of the biggest reasons why many of us are unable to follow our food protocols long term and lose weight and keep it off long term. When we try to cut back our food in order to lose weight without actually addressing the cravings or the desire that we have for food, we will often end up increasing our desire for the food or actually eating against our own will. So think about times that you may have tried to cut out a certain food group and how you did really well for a few months, and then a few months later that was the only thing you could ever think about wanting. So I want to address that desire today, and I want you to understand that this is really just our brain creating a thought error, okay? So it's our brain creating an importance or urgency around a certain food that actually doesn't help us health-wise because it thinks that it needs that food to keep us happy and healthy. So our brain has been programmed evolutionarily for 3 things. Number 1, for pleasure, which is cravings. Number 2, to avoid pain. And number 3, for survival. Okay. So our brain is just doing its job when it tells us that it needs a certain food. So our goal here is to address that desire, because when we reduce that desire, we won't need willpower to stay on food protocol. And it just becomes really easy to make a plan and stick to it. And that's really what we want for our entire life. We want to make out our calendar and put your workouts in the calendar and put your work schedule on the calendar, and you do what's on the calendar, and there's no struggle and it's effortless. And that's kind of the idea behind living an intentional life. That's what I want for us through this training. Okay. So there are 3 things that we can do with a craving. We can avoid it, we can resist it, or we can allow and process it. If we resist and avoid, what usually ends up happening is, like I said earlier, we do really well for a little while, and then eventually our willpower is not strong enough, and it actually gives that craving more power, and we end up caving into it. However, if we can learn how to allow it and process through it, it really becomes almost powerless. It's just, you realize, oh, it's just a thought. So I'm going to give you an example. Last night, my son made some banana bread and it smelled amazing. And I caught this craving when it came out of the oven. I caught the craving to have some almost immediately because I've been practicing this for a while now. And I wrote down, because I still do this, I still write this down. I wrote down the date and the time. This is what you're going to be doing tonight, and actually for the rest of the month. I wrote down the urge or craving that I was having, so banana bread. And then I wrote down what the thought was. And I think, I don't have it with me, but I think the thought was, I need that. But what's funny is I don't need banana bread. I wanted banana bread because it smelled good, and my brain was trying to create dopamine increase for me, which increases pleasure in my brain, because that's its job. So what's really fun about this is then I identified it, I could see it happening, and I could say to brain, hey, it's okay. I will write it in as an exception tomorrow, and you can have some tomorrow, just like you would with your toddler. Sometimes we have to treat our brain like a toddler. So our goal here is to learn how to allow and process all the cravings and urges and emotions that come up without using food as a way of escape, or I will use the word buffer. Okay. I want you to understand that it's normal and human to be unhappy part of the time, and that's okay. And it's actually, if you really process through it, you'll realize it's not actually that bad. So the homework tonight then is to write down any urges that happened today, the date, time, the urge, and the thought that goes with it. And I want you to continue doing that every single time you have a craving. And I want you to write down if you allowed it, or if you gave into it, or if you feel like you're really resisting it. Okay. If we can learn how to allow this 100 times, and it doesn't have to be consecutive, you can give in, you can resist in the middle in there, and it won't ruin anything. But if we can learn how to allow a craving 100 times, I guarantee you that your brain will change. You will learn how to identify cravings as they're happening without feeling the urgency of meeting that craving. So that's my goal for us with this exercise. And it's called 100 Allow Urges, and I want you to just start keeping a list. Okay. Tomorrow I will be back with a lot more work to do on cravings, a lot of thought work, and a lot of work on our emotions dealing with that. Okay. I got you on this. Don't worry. We're going to figure this all out, and you will never have to worry about eating against your own will again by the time we're done.